Banks all over the world are synced with digital, but in this new normal world, the future of the banks will be determined by 4 by 5-inch smartphone. How are the decade-old banks converting to this new paradise? And how are they crafting their strategies from shifting data to using AI and incorporating the whole ecosystem? Up next, we have a fireside chat which will explore 360 view of how banks are riding technology. And Yashwendra Singh, ET editor, ETCIO, has joined us virtually to start this conversation.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Yashwendra Singh, executive editor of ETCIO and the moderator of this fireside chat on Bankers' Chariot riding on technology. The impact of the rapidly evolving digital landscape with more and more new technologies making their way can be seen in almost every aspect of our lives. One of the industries that has been impacted the most by such digital disruption is banking. It is quite interesting to see how the highly regulated banking sector is witnessing the constant metamorphosis of its once foolproof business models to stay ahead of the competition in such digitally disruptive times. In this session, we have with us two experts who will be discussing some of the most important technology trends and developments that are shaping banking. Please welcome Mr. Dhananjay A. Tambe, DMD and CIO, State Bank of India, and Mr. Anand Ganapathy, Senior Director and General Manager, Enterprise, Dell Technologies, India. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashwin.
Great. So I'll start with you, Mr. Tambe. Sir, all banks had undertaken digital transformation even before the pandemic started. The benefits of doing so were clear. It improved efficiency and offered innovation. How has the pandemic impacted this move to digital? Has it accelerated or subdued this journey, and why?
Not subdued by any means and accelerated by all means. So one of the things that happened was that you couldn't reach the branch, right? So although the branches were functional, people couldn't reach the branch, and therefore they had to find out alternative means of accessing their banks. So we did find that although the digital enablers were available even before the pandemic, right? So during the pandemic, we did not create any digital enablers for the customers. But the usage of these digital enablers, it has gone up substantially. So I'll give you a few examples of where this has happened. See, we have a product called PAPL, Pre-Approved Personal Loan. Now, this is one of those products which is an analytics-based product where we find out the eligible customers on the basis of analytics, which is heavily relying upon artificial intelligence and machine learning. And basis that, we make an offer to the customer through our app called YONO if he is eligible for the loan. And the entire loan journey, end to end, starting to finish, happens on the mobile app and takes not more than 120 seconds from start to finish. And you can do this any time of the day, 365 days of the year. Now, all those people who wanted a loan during this pandemic lockdown period and who could not have approached their branches for the loan, they all benefited from this just because this entire product was available to them fully digitally, end to end. This is one of those products where we found that the use has gone up tremendously. Another product is Aadhaar enabled payment system. Many people in the urban areas might not be aware of it, but it is quite popular in the rural and semi-urban areas. We found that the usage of Aadhaar enabled payment system and its sister product called Aadhaar merchant payment system, both of these has gone up tremendously after the advent of COVID and the lockdown that it resulted in.
Sure, sir. No, great to know that the usage of digital has gone up during the pandemic. Coming to you, Anand, what do you hear from CIOs from the banking sector in your interactions with them? What's their feedback? Are they continue progressing on the path to digital even during the pandemic or post COVID-19? What feedback do you get from them?
Oh, the feedback is unanimous. I think it's not just the CIOs. We talk to, in my interactions with some CEOs and CFOs. I think what the pandemic has taught us is that life is possibly never going to be the same, And what it has also taught us is, all the business continuity plans that we had, all the thought processes that we had, have another variable. Now, with all of this, digital, and digital is become a means towards an end of each of these banks and each of these financial institutions. And as Mr. Tambe said, all of these tools were there earlier. I mean, take a simple example of this mechanism that we're talking on, or a video conference. This was there earlier. The way we have used it, not only to have such interactions, one-on-one interactions, large team interactions. Our belief is that the biggest good that the pandemic has done is hugely accelerate the digital innovation and the use of digital technologies in every enterprise, especially banks, because banks are so consumer touch oriented.
Sure, Mr. Anand. Coming back to you, Mr. Tambe, so there are several challenges confronting banks today. There is lack of skilled manpower, there are budgetary constraints, there are security issues. And as if these were not enough, we now also have competition from non-financial players like the Amazons and Facebooks of the world. Do you feel technology has the answer to solve some or all of these problems? And how can banks leverage IT to overcome some of these challenges?
Right, Yashwendra. In fact, most of these problems will be solved only by IT. Where else will you go for getting solutions to these problems? See, today, solving problems through a person-to-person interaction is a very, very difficult task for two reasons. One reason is that the cost of delivering that service becomes very high. Second is you cannot maintain uniformity when it comes to human-to-human interaction. Whereas when you deliver services through an IT-enabled interface, you will be able to deliver the services in a completely uniform way. Now, this becomes a huge differentiator when you compare the IT-enabled services with the services that are enabled at the branch end. The second thing is that the innovation, and especially the use of artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language processing, all of this is possible only in IT. So today, more and more products are relying upon this. See, new products that we are coming out, and you can call them the next generation products. I gave you the example of pre-approved personal loan. Similarly, we have got something called pre-approved business loan, where again we use analytics to find out who are the eligible customers to whom a business loan can be given. And for them also, we have enabled a completely end-to-end digital journey, though there might be a break in between the journey for the purpose of documentation, but that's only a small piece. So all these enablements will happen only through IT. And today, IT has to rely very heavily upon analytics. It has to rely very heavily upon the new generation technologies and those institutions which are able to attract talent, because you talked about talent also, the skilled manpower also. See, unless you can buy any number of tools that you want, but unless you have the people who can use those tools and use those tools in the right way. When I say right way means in a manner that will result in some business benefit, those tools will not be effective. So therefore, it's very essential that we get skilled manpower, and also very essential that we develop IT so that IT becomes the biggest enabler for any banking institution.
Sure, Mr. Tambe. Mr. Anand, do you echo Mr. Tambe's sentiments there? IT has the Brahmastra for all problems or majority of problems that banks face today.
I would say it. While I agree with him, I would say it slightly differently, right? IT is an enabler of transformation, right? Now, everything that we are doing here is a transformation journey. Now, whether you're battling a new competitor, whether you're trying to reach new customers that you never reached, whether you're trying to shore up your bottom line, whether you're trying to reach out to new revenue streams, or you're trying to become extremely responsive to your customer requests, while at the same time balance your risk that you carry in your business, whether it's an operational risk or any other type of risk. All of this is transforming the way the business is, and transformation needs three things. It needs, as Mr. Tambe said, it needs people. It needs people and the skills that they bring. It needs a change of process, and it has to be enabled by IT. IT is an enabler, but all of these three things together will enable the transformation. The underlying bedrock obviously is IT. But on top of that, you've got to transform your process. You've got to transform your people as well, because if you had the old skills and get them to try and do new things, that's potentially not going to work, right? You can throw the best of IT at a problem, but you need to support that with new skills and revised or revisited processes to enable the whole transformation.
Definitely, great point there. Mr. Tambe, we talked about how technology can help overcome some challenges. But let's talk about certain challenges that are associated with technology itself. Digital transformation banking strategy has to include relevant technologies that can bring the most value for both the bank as well as the customers. But there is a challenge here. I feel the market today is flooded with technologies and solutions. In such a scenario, how do you think CIOs can cut the clutter? Which technologies should CIOs look at, and how will they help? How does a CIO decide all that?
So the way to decide it is by not looking at technology. The way to decide it is by first looking at what business problem you are going to solve. Look at the business problem and then try to find out what technology I need for solving that business problem. See, IT is people, process, and technology. You must first find out what is that process that IT is going to impact, and do I need a new technology to impact that process? See, many times you will find that the existing technology stack that you have, that itself is enough to address the business complexity or to address the business problem that has been given to you. Many times you will find that you actually only a little extra will enable you to do much more than buying a whole new stack of technology. So don't start from technology. Don't put the cart before the horse. Start with the business problem and then see what is it that you are going to need for doing this. Let me give you a simple example. See, suppose tomorrow we decide that banks should be enabled to look into the accounts in other banks. That is, customers of one bank should be able to see their accounts in other banks also if they have. Now for this, what do you need? With the current system, you can't do it. So therefore, you need something called an account aggregator. Now here is one problem where you will not be able to find a solution unless you go in for a new technology. So for such purposes, yes, you need new technologies. But for many of the existing problems, even the existing technologies are good enough. But where technological improvement would be needed is especially when you need to scale up. So you see, your conventional technologies might not enable a rapid scaling up. So if you are, let's say, on the normal wave in which we have been doing, the typically a dedicated server for each application, you might not be able to scale up. So what will you have to do? Now you will have to move to cloud technologies. And that is something which people must adopt. We have adopted it, and we believe that every organization needs to adopt if it needs to scale up. And scaling up is very important because the workloads that we have, they are not uniform. So given this challenge in our ecosystem, it is essential that we adopt new technologies, but new technologies should be adopted by first analyzing which business problem it is going to solve, and then we should find out the relevant technology which can solve the problem.
Great point there, sir. First, CIOs need to identify the business problem and then go out and procure technology. Great. Mr. Anand, your thoughts. You work closely with SBI and I'm sure with lots of other banks. What is your perspective, your thoughts on how CIOs should go about deploying, implementing, procuring technology?
See, IT, at the end of the day, an IT organization within an entire business is a service provider. They deliver services to enable the business to achieve its results, right? And we have seen enough projects, and we've had the privilege and the pleasure of having worked with SBI, and we've solved a problem. I mean, today, there's an instance where the business had a problem where every year you had to go and refresh some servers, you had to change some switches in the branches, and maintaining that was becoming a problem. Responsiveness to the customer was a problem because that server or switch shut down for whatever reason. The customer was left hanging. That was a business problem, and the solution to that was found through technology, right? There was a solution that was implemented in the bank that resolved that problem and resulted in better responsiveness to the customer, better resiliency for the bank. And there are many other such stories in SBI and in other banks. What we have figured out is when a project is started and the project has a grounding in the business KPIs, in the business problems it's going to resolve, and the service levels that it is going to offer to the business, the whole organization within the customer and the whole organization in the other side, which is providers like us, the IT providers, the technology providers, we have a great way of addressing the problem. If we understand what a customer wants and what they're trying to solve, it becomes that much more easy, because technologies are a dime a dozen. You pick up, a simple technology like server or even PCs. There are enough variants available. Now, what do you choose? All of these are fit for purpose. They're meant for specific end users. Now, you can mix and match and make one work for the other, but it never work as well. They're not supposed to work that way. So when we understand what the customer wants, that's when we have seen the greatest success, and we challenge ourselves to get to the level where we understand the business problem of the customer, and after that, implementation and solutioning and putting together things becomes all the more easy, and the project also has greater buy-in within the customer organization.
Sure. No, great approach there by Dell Technologies there, Mr. Anand. Coming back to you, Mr. Tambe, let's talk about one of the hottest topics these days, cybersecurity. Cybersecurity has always been an important issue in banking. Even sophisticated tools and solutions can't make any bank 100% secure. It's said that every organization is going to get breached. It's just a matter of when. It's just a matter of time. So the issue has become, I feel, even more critical in today's distributed enterprise or distributed bank setup, with employees, a majority of the workforce working from home. In such a scenario, how can a bank remain secure? Your thoughts on this, sir, ensuring cybersecurity in today's scenario?
So for a banking organization, there is nothing more important than cybersecurity, right? Because ultimately, the confidence that the customer reposes on you is largely because of the feeling that everything is safe with a bank. That feeling of safety and security is very, very important. And that, of course, comes through the multitude of activities that we do on the security front. So starting from the perimeter security, going all the way back up to the database security. There is a whole chain of security deployments that we have, which every other organization will also have. But this is something, which is an evolving field, and it's a very rapidly evolving field. So therefore, you need to keep yourself abreast of the technology. So when you talked about technology and technology for the sake of IT for IT, so this is one of those areas, where you will not get a business demand. So it's a purely IT driven activity. But it is very, very essential that you keep yourself abreast of the new developments that are happening. In fact, many of these developments, many of these services, like endpoint detection and response, some of these services are now available on the cloud. And you can procure these services from the cloud and you can enhance your security. So that way, what we have also done is that from the very traditional way of securing things, like, when we started the IT organization, it all started with simply having firewalls, right? But from that point onwards, we have now graduated to something called web application firewall, something called RASP, and IDS, IPS. And of course, we have got a very evolved securities operations center. Now that's something which is very important. Either they should have it themselves in-house, or even SOC as a service is now available. So there are many good organizations, which are offering SOC as a service. But this is very essential, because unless you are able to analyze the traffic that is coming to you, and you are able to take the corrective actions basis any anomaly that you detect in this traffic, then you will not be able to proactively address the concerns that might be getting posed in the environment in which you are placed. And every bank will be placed in a different environment. Adversaries are different, threats are different. So that threat intelligence and knowing that landscape also is very, very important. So I guess today, we have a whole plethora of services that are available. And this is one area where we believe that every banking organization must adopt cutting edge technology, because you need to be ahead of your adversary. The adversary has nothing to lose. He is sitting somewhere in some distant land, and his investment also is very, very low, right? So he has nothing to lose. It is you who have to lose everything. Therefore, it is very essential that this is one area which should not be ignored. In fact, bulk of our time and resources we spend upon this, and cybersecurity is something which is taken with the utmost seriousness in the organization.
Definitely, Mr. Tambe. Mr. Anand, your thoughts here on this. What strategy should CISOs adopt to stay a step ahead of hackers?
Okay. See, at Dell Technologies, we believe, we believe banking and financial services, as Mr. Tambe said, is a business built on trust. And trust is such a thing that, it only takes one instance to break, but a million instances to build, right? So the way we look at, in Dell Technologies, the way we look at security is security at every layer, in every possible place, right? And I'll substantiate, right? Now, every organization typically will look at security and say, my data center, I've got to protect all the data there. I've got to keep it safe, But let me give you a situation, while we protect everything that's inside the periphery and the perimeter of the data center extremely well, okay? Sometimes attacks can happen when data is flowing between servers. People are that smart that, they can come in and find ways of attacking you when the data is flowing between servers. So we have technologies within the family where when data is flowing from one server to the other, we make sure it's encrypted. You put in an added level of security. So in transit, data cannot be picked up. We make sure that the data is transmitted in such a way that, even if they break one packet of data and they break into it, the second packet of data is not the same code that will help them break into it. So there is technology available there in the form of NSX, in the form of some of that. The second way we look at it is, if you, and this is substantiated by independent surveys and studies, most of the security breaches in any corporate, and this is nothing to do with just banks, happen through insiders. It is not outsiders, it's insiders. And it could be inadvertent. And in the current scenario, where all of us are working from home, or a lot of us are working from home, the fact is our laptops and our devices, in the corporate environment, they are inside our offices, they are safe and secure. The people accessing that are safe and secure. But when they are at home, there are other people, including our children, sometimes who peek into it, who have an access to it, right? All it takes is for one wrong website to open for your entire corporate security to get compromised. And therefore, we believe that the security that you carry and you deploy on something as simple as the PC that you are deploying at home is extremely critical. So for us, security is an all-pervasive, thought process. Your PC has to be secure. Your connection to the data center has to be secure. Your servers have to be secure. Your storage has to be secure. Your data moving between your server and storage has to be secure. And more than all of it, assuming somebody can get to your data, let's assume that a ransomware attack happens. We believe that it is important for you, for protecting your data in a way that the ransomware attack can be negated. Because if you have your data with you in a secure site, the ransomware attack can't happen. And we have technologies called CRS in our portfolio, which make sure customers can go down that path as well. So for us, security is not, a point in time thought process. It is all pervasive across our entire portfolio, and that's what we take to our customers.
Sure. So security has to be all pervasive. Great. One last question to you, gentlemen. To you, Mr. Tambe, first. Let's look at the crystal ball. Let's gaze into the future for a bit. So it is predicted that digital transformation will entirely change the image of traditional banks, as well as bring more services to customers. How would the bank of the future look like? What kind of innovative services will IT enable for customers going forward?
So the bank of the future will be one where you might not have to go to the bank at all. Maybe that once in a while, in order to either establish your account relationship or for meeting the person concerned, you might have to go offer certain things, which it is not possible to do digitally. Like for instance, your locker operation. That's not possible to do digitally. But otherwise, the bank of the future will be one which enables its customers to do everything digitally so that they never have to come to the bank at all. And at least I can say this for SBI, that we have enabled this. My branch is in Ahmedabad, and I have not visited that branch since 2006. So now for the last so many years, 14 years, I have been able to do banking and everything in banking without having to visit my branch. So this is the digital enablement which every bank must do. And of course, we have also done it. The second thing is that we will have to find out ways of creating that wow. Because once everybody has done this, so it is like implementing core banking, So once upon a time, core banking was something new. Core banking was something, which was the wow factor. In fact, there were banks, which used to advertise outside their branches saying that we have got core banking. But today, no bank will be able to sell its product by saying that I have got core banking. Why? Because core banking is something which has become the norm. So similarly, tomorrow, digital products will also become the norm. So then what will be the differentiator? The differentiator will be your experience. The differentiator will be personalization. So whether to Yashwendra I can give services which he needs is what will be important. Now, how will you decide this? For a bank like us, which has got 450 million customers, to be able to deliver personalized service is not an easy task. So the only way you can do it is to analyze the data and basis that analysis, find out what that customer needs. So this is something which will heavily rely upon IT, heavily rely upon analytics, and the more the use you can put to of the statistical models that are required to be developed for the purpose of doing this personalization, the better you will be able to deliver these services. And the more you are able to deliver services of this nature, the more endearing those services will be. See, ultimately, you need to hold the customer. The same customer everybody is vying for. So how do you hold the customer? How do you attract him towards you? The only way to do it is to ensure that all his needs, his entire life cycle needs are met through you. And that is why we have this product called YONO, YONO stands for you only need one. It's one product which enables us to cater to every single need of the customer, entirely end-to-end digital, and all the needs except for it doesn't give you cash, because cash is something which can't come out of a mobile phone. But other than that, everything else you can do on this. So this is how every bank will have to fashion itself into. And I believe that the bank which innovates better is the one which will survive better. And that is how the branches and the banks of the future will evolve.
Great. Amazing insights there from you, sir. Finally, Anand, how is Dell Technologies supporting or enabling banks to move to the next level?
As I said, our story is one of, being the technology, the essential technology company, right? Now, what do banks need? And we spoke a lot about innovation. We spoke a lot about personalization. All of this at the bottom needs technology that is reliable, that's flexible, highly available. Because, if you're going to run a bank on technology, you want stuff that is, you want your data center, you want your stuff, the servers that are running in the data center to be reliable, available, agile, secure, you able to, spawn out, workloads the way you want. You want to be able to move workloads the way you want, you wanted to be able to do all of that. You want this whole thing to be extremely secure, and you want the best of technology to come to you, at the fastest possible pace. And on top of all of this, you want everything to be, non-proprietary. You don't want to be stuck in a situation where you're forced to, buy, a certain product. You want to have that flexibility so that you get the efficiencies of scale, of cost, of supply chains as and when they happen. Right now, our fundamental belief is in going down this path of providing you the most innovative technology in a way that it's all open architecture, in a way that's all software defined, in a way that's all aggregated, call it cloud, call it multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, call it what have you, but essentially aggregation of services, aggregation of resources, in a way to serve you the way you want to be served, the way your business wants to be served. So that's our vision, and cover all of this with a layer of products and technologies that make your data very secure. On top of this, we also look at the most critical intellectual property as you develop the bank of the future. The most critical IP that banks are possibly going to have is data. You're going to live off the data because the data is going to tell you how to manage risk, how to build out customers, how to build out new products, new services, and therefore managing, massaging, controlling, protecting, doing everything around the data, and becomes very critical. And that's what we bring to the table: an ability, tools, technologies, and ability, understanding processes to be able to manage, massage, save data, save it for posterity, because that's your IP. That defines who you are. You don't have the data, you potentially will have trouble, moving forward as a going concern. So, that becomes very critical for us, and all our efforts around these two big pictures.
Well, that's all we have time for. Viewers, to sum up today's discussion, while technology is unlikely to wipe out traditional banks completely, it will, however, surely force the banking industry to reinvent itself in order to serve the financial needs of customers better. Therefore, banks that wish to stay on top of customer expectations will not hesitate and adopt these digital technologies to enjoy a competitive advantage. With this, we wrap up this fireside chat. Thank you, Mr. Tambe, and thank you, Mr. Anand, for those wonderful insights. As for our viewers, thank you for sparing time for this, and keep watching ETBFSI Converge.
Thank you, Yashwendra.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for bringing those findings to the forefront. We have plenty of things planned for day one of ETBFSI Converge. So we will talk about insurance and financial institutes in the upcoming days. So do check out our agenda for a sneak peek preview of the interesting lineup ahead for today, tomorrow, and day after. So we will see you on the other side.